death for blasphemy, Nigerian state defies human rights court. In a major rebuke to religious repression, the ECOWAS, which is an acronym, Court of Justice ruled that blasphemy laws in Nigeria violate international human rights commitments only to be openly defied by the Kano state officials. ECOWAS, or the Economic Committee of West African States, is a regional bloc of 15 countries aiming at promoting economic integration and human rights, and its court decisions carry significant weight across West Africa. Yet, Kano State, a Muslim majority region known for enforcing harsh Sharia inspired laws, a Muslim majority, oh, excuse me, dismissed the ruling, vowing to keep criminalizing blasphemy. And it's more than criminalization, they punish blasphemy with death. Quote, we will not be deterred by external pressures, said Kano's Commissioner of Information, Ibrahim Waiya, insisting that the laws will, quote, reflect the will of Kano's citizens. The case, brought by Expression Now Human Rights Initiative, challenged the imprisonment of individuals like Mubarak Bala, a Nigerian atheist who was sentenced to 24 years for social media posts deemed blasphemous, who before being freed earlier this year. Despite the ECOWAS ordering Nigeria to repeal or amend such laws, Kano's defiance underscores a deepening clash between universal human rights and religious authoritarianism within Africa's largest democracy. So, this is very interesting. And this is a story that our editor D suggested to me. And I thought it was important to cover because this shows about two big conflicts going on. One, I think it's awesome to see ECOWAS and the Court of Justice being like, no, this is not tolerable. Nigeria as a country has made certain international human rights commitments. And what they are doing in Kano State is a extreme violation of those agreements because they have the death penalty for blasphemy in that state, for example, among many other Sharia laws. And so they're saying, no, this was all brought forward because basically there was a civil society organization that was like suing and brought this case to light. And so I think it's really positive that this overarching body was on the side of like, no, you can't put people to death for blasphemy. That's a violation. This is overly extreme. But then meanwhile, when this ruling came down and there was, I personally I had a positive reception to that. Then Kano State is like just being openly defiant and saying, no, this is what we do. We have to reflect the will of our people and we have to keep it this way. Because it's a difficult scenario where Nigeria as a country has made certain human rights commitments, but Kano as a state has a certain level of autonomy from the larger federal government. So there's a big conflict with each other. Um, Armin, what is your reaction?
I was going to look this up as you're speaking because one thing I know about Nigeria and how, because a lot of people think, you know, anti-Islam or anti-religion or atheist activism or secular activism is about the direct negative influence of religion on our personal lives and people who might be executed and victims of terrorist attacks. And Nigeria is actually a good example to show that it's about much, much, much more than that, right? Because Nigeria is going to be has so much potential, and a lot of that potential is being is basically religion is basically in the way. I mean, Nigeria is going to be a major part of uplifting Africa's economy and the world economy, given the growth and the demographic that they're having, and given the young population that they have, and given how much in major economies the population is dying, like in Europe, in North America, in Japan, in Korea, in China. Nigeria is a major key to the solution, and it has a very young, very driven, very entrepreneurial, and a very educated population. And all of that is being hampered and is being slowed down by religious radicalism, by a legal system that is basically archaic. It's like very ancient, it's very unstable, it's very basically scares away money, scares away investments, scares away business, and a lot of, you know, terrorism that causes instability, and so much of that amazing potential. So when I say and you know, anti-religion activism is not about just those immediate victims that you see on the news. Like if there's a terrorist attack, you see the people who died. When you see somebody being executed for or going to court for blasphemy, you see years of their lives gone. But what you don't see, which potentially is even much higher in cost, because a lot of people are like, oh, are you saying economic opportunities are more important than people's lives? No, what you don't understand is economic opportunities gone, that cost is in people's lives. More people die from lack of economic progress than actual terrorist attack and war. I mean, I could show you why, but that will make the stream go much longer. But this is, there's so much lost opportunity here, that the consequences of instability and a legal system that is so barbaric is so much more than what you see in the news. And it's such a shame. And this is why people who are doing secular activism or atheist activism or anti-Islam activism, they are, a lot of people don't understand how important their service is. But yeah, those
Yeah,
are
I
my
think
takes.
that's important thing to think about, and that's actually part of the reason why I've been wanting to talk more about, and I've been meaning to talk more about the issue of Fulani jihadism in Nigeria, because that's a crisis that is like really reaching a whole different level. I think, oh, we covered this story a while ago. I think most Christians that are killed for their faith in the world are actually in Nigeria. I think the most amount of Christians are killed in Nigeria by Fulani jihadism. Um, but I think it's important for people to kind of understand the mentality here, because the people who push for the blasphemy laws have like a very certain conception, versus the ECOWAS has like ruled that two of these kind of uh amendments, not amendments, what's like elements of the penal code need to be struck down. They ordered them to be struck down. But proponents of these elements of the penal code would say, like, they argue that they prevent actions or speech that could incite religious tensions or violence and safeguard the dignity and sanctity of religious beliefs, ensuring that followers of various faiths feel respected and protected, thereby maintaining faith and, excuse me, maintaining peace in a multi-religious society like Nigeria. So they actually see this as a way of protecting like harmony and pluralism, which I think is a very interesting argument.
Mm, but like, let's say for example somebody says like, you know what, that actually, regardless of what the ideal is, like somebody wants to argue against me and you, Susanna, somebody might say like, you know what, but that's, they're just being pragmatic. You're like, oh, it would be good not to have these. But they live in a society where there are some crazy people that if things like this happen, if you don't give them what they want, they will just cause so much chaos. So it makes sense for pragmatic reasons to do that for the sake of stability. What my response to that is that that might look like what makes sense in the short term, in like if you look at it in a small time horizon. But if you actually look at what you're doing, you're incentivizing extreme sensitivity and radical responses, because what you're doing is you're demonstrating to your society that the people who react the most crazy will get their way. So you're not actually, by giving them what they want, you're actually not reducing radicalism. You're not actually, you might be reducing instability and causing more harmony short term, but in the long term you're going to signal to anybody, everybody, that if you want to be heard, if you want us to submit to your demands, you just have to act like a maniac. You just have to
Yeah.
go full radical. So that's why this doesn't actually cause harmony.
Well, and this actually plays into the what led into the persecution of Nigerian ex-Muslim atheist Mubarak Bala is when he was accused of blasphemy for a social media post, and lawyers initiated this case against him. They literally said that he needs to be arrested because if he's not arrested, basically Muslims are going to cause mass violence,
Mm.
and so we need to go after him for what he said instead of going after the people who are going to be causing mass violence. I want people to remember that it was less than 3 years ago that there was a student. Her name was Deborah Samuel. She was accused of blasphemy because of some WhatsApp message that she made. And she was lynched and burned. Her body was torched by her own classmates at college because of this accusation. It's so I can I cannot imagine what it is like to live in a society, because I remember my memories from college, and knowing that if my fellow classmates, these people who are my friends, who I'm going through this exciting developmental stage with, like, if they interpret what I said the wrong way, these people sitting next to me in class will kill me dead right here and set my body on fire outside my lecture hall. I cannot imagine what it is like to live in a society like that. And that's what life is like for many people in Nigeria. That's what life is like for our community members here who live in Pakistan. That's not an imagination. I can't imagine what that would feel like to know that that's how quickly things can turn with the people sitting literally right next to you. It's terrifying. And that's a lived reality for a lot of people in our community.
That
It's
is terrifying.
yeah. And that's the reality of what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. So, oh, did you see Muhammad's comment? You started. Do you want to respond to that?
Yes. So Mohammed will show me. He was saying, wait, what? You're claiming Nigeria tops Pakistan in this area? Big claim, Susie, big claim. It's specifically, okay, if I'm remembering correctly, it's that the, okay, and this is based on different groups that track Christian persecution around the world. And this is a quote: in any given year, the number of Christians killed by extremist groups is rarely less than 4,000, which is more often than the rest of the world combined. So there are other countries where the general persecution of Christians is worse. Like obviously North Korea is going to be number one because the persecution of everyone is number one. But for the number of people killed because of their faith, Nigeria is number one, especially in recent years. The Fulani jihadism has been a driving cause of this. And I mean, so it's not just blasphemy accusations or blasphemy lynchings. Pakistan's gonna be the number 1 on that. But for being killed for being Christian, Nigeria is much higher, partially from the simple fact that they have a much larger Christian population.
Yeah, yeah. Pakistan has more radicalization, I think, but you would have seen more Christians dying if if it had as much Christians as Nigeria does. So the reason why Nigeria has it worse for Christians is because Nigeria is half Christian, half Islam. So there's a lot half Muslim. So there's a lot of tension between Christians and Muslims there.
Yeah. We covered a
Mm.
story within the past year that showed that I think last year was they were the worst. Nigeria had the most Christians killed because of their faith than any other country. And like one organization that tracks this said more than any in a given year, more than any other country combined. Um,
I can't think of any country right now that needs secularism more than Nigeria because it's
but
basically a
technically they
country
are
that is half.
secular.
Well, not technically. I mean,
No, there's
only.
according to their laws and their constitutions. That's just not upheld. Partially
Yeah.
because
So
in the
yeah.
northern states in the late 90s, they just decided to all
So
go
formally
Islamic.
they are secular. Technically they're not. because if it's
Well,
not
look,
upheld.
like what's on the books versus what is the reality,
Yes, yes, yes.
it's all
All
a
right, let's
different
look at
matter.
some of the comments. The
Yeah, so people are highlighting that this is a really big decision and that this has major implications for prisoners who have been accused of blasphemy who are facing the death penalty, like Yahya Sharif Aminu, who's a case we covered, man, back in 2020, who himself, Yahya Sharif Aminu, is a Muslim who's accused of blasphemy and is on death row for insulting the Prophet Muhammad because of a song that he made. And he's still like his case is there's been a lot of changes, but it's still up in the air. So yeah, it's not just
you know,
ex-Muslims like Mubarak Bala that get in trouble for this. It's also Muslims themselves.
I'm actually optimistic about the future of Nigeria. Maybe I'm being naive here, but I think these things, there's too much. Again, I think capitalism is the solution to many of these problems, and I think there's just too much potential. There's too much economic potential, and when there's this much potential, the money factor will cause there's too much interest in stability, and when there's so much interest in stability will be achieved, I think, long term, very long term.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
So let's look at this one.
So this is the governor, just being openly defiant of this court ruling, saying like no going back on the blasphemy laws. And that's actually something to consider in terms of the short term. Like this, it's very easy for Islamist movements to frame this as an attack on Islam, frame this as a call for, increasing hardline stances, kind of becoming very brittle in their response. Um, it so I don't know. I don't know how this is going to go in the long term. In the long term, I'm hoping things will bend towards secularization, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the short term we do see a rise in Islamist rhetoric because this plays into the persecution um narrative that they love.
Mm. Here's a comment.
And this person is saying, but why will you need to insult the prophet? Can't you people just respect our wishes and stay away from any religious ridicule? Why is it so hard to understand? Because what is considered insult is very diffuse. And actually, that was part of what went into the decision of the ECOWAS High Court was that they were saying this is very vague.
Actually,
What
I
is
accept
considered the
this.
insult is not well defined.
But here's the thing. I don't know if this person understands what he or she is saying, because let's accept it. Let's accept it. Let's just make it the law that you have to respect our wishes and stay away from religious ridicule. Okay, that will ban the Quran and Hadith. That would be the end of Islam. If we had that standard, the Islam would be outlawed. If we had that standard, based on what you're asking for, because the
Yeah.
Quran and the Hadith itself doesn't respect the wishes of people of other. I mean, I'm an infidel. The Quran insults me. You are all unbelievers. The Quran insults all of you. It's
Hmm.
anti-Jewish, anti-Christian. It ridicules them. It doesn't respect them. So let's go by the standard. If we go by the standard, we would need to have laws against the Quran itself.
Yeah. Um.
Oh, we could. Yeah, let's go
Okay.
here. There's a comment
And
here.
also, I want to say that they're like, why do you need to insult the prophet? Blah blah blah. Like people like the victim, Deborah Samuel. If you look into her case, I don't think this was a woman who needed to insult the prophet. You look into the messages that were in the middle of the controversy. It was like, that's not what happened here, and she was murdered, burnt
But
because of it.
but but, but here's the thing. They think that we need laws to stop people from insulting the prophet because people are insulting the prophet. But they don't understand it's the other way around. We need to insult the prophet because you have laws that bans insulting the prophet. The direction of the causality is the other way around. There would be no point in insulting your prophet if there was no intimidation,
Mm,
no threats of harm, and no laws against it. Then it would be a waste of time. Like if it was just your feelings getting hurt, I wouldn't go out of my way to hurt your feelings for the sake of hurting your feelings. The
Yeah.
point is that when there are a group of people who either use laws or threats of harm to control your speech, then we as a society would need to do the speech that you're trying to control, so that that methodology doesn't. It's not about this what we're saying specifically. It's about the methodology that you're using to control speech. That methodology should prove unusable. It should never work, so that other people
Basically, we
don't use
cannot
that.
let that tactic win.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what
So
is
this
this?
person is saying bigots only wake up when it's a religious issue. Serious countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE are gradually jettisoning outdated and archaic Muslim laws. Why Nigerian illiterate bigots are going deeper with it. Yeah, this is someone from Nigeria. I'd be very frustrated. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Um,
and also the Saudi Arabia again. The reason why this is happening in Saudi Arabia and UAE, guys, why is this happening there? Because
because
of
they want economic
money.
prosperity.
It's because of economic prosperity. Again, that's why I'm telling you, capitalism is the greatest stabilizing force in the whole world.
They want a better life for
And
their people. I want a
yes,
better life for people.
right.
Blind Lizzle is saying, if other religions maintained this stance before the advent of Islam in Africa, would they be Muslim converts? If other before that, imagine an African being killed by Africans because of an Arab. No Arab will kill one another over an African. LOL. Many of you are just stupid. I think what this person is basically getting at is why are we killing our fellow countrymen over an imported idea that's not native to our
Mm,
continent? You know what I mean? That's actually a very interesting, I think people like Nigerians like, Fela Kuti, iconic, who had huge problems. He rejected Islam because he said, "This is not I have African pride. This is not of us." He rejected Christianity for the same reason. He's like, this is not us. This is not our tradition. I reject it."
right.
Um,
So you're saying like the people in this in Nigeria, half of them have a religion that comes from Jerusalem, and the other half have a religion that comes from Mecca. So why are we fighting each other
yeah,
over
why are
other
we
people's
killing each
religions?
other? Like, we don't see Arabs killing each other over from Africa. Like, that's the
Right,
basic.
right, right. That's interesting way to look
Um,
at it.
can you read this super chat while I take a quick potty break before we go to the next news?
Yes, I mean it's a
This is
very
one.
generous super chat. So the, I want you to can you go on a break? I will read some other comments. Can you just read the super chat because it's very sweet. I want you to
Okay.
be here for it. Okay.
Flip. Oh, thank you for the $20 super chat saying sharing the love. Real quick, found you guys after October 7th. I was lost, scared, angry, depressed. I started to look for connection and reassurance and came across the Atheist Republic. Thank you for all that you do for so many viewers. This is actually so sweet. Thank you for
Yeah,
supporting our work. Like, this is exactly what I want people to get out of our community. Um, so many people across the world really benefit from this community, from Pakistan to Iran to Israel to the UK to the US. And thank you for donating to help us keep going. I
yeah, that's a
approve
very
this
beautiful
motion.
it's such a beautiful message. And Susie was like, I'm gonna go. You read the super chat. I was like, this is too good of a too nice of a message for you to miss out on. So all right, you could go.
Okay, okay.
And
Be right
then
back.
I'll just have be right back. Okay. FLP saying, truly you guys touch my heart. Thank you. Aw, thank you, FLP. Wait, FLP, do you want to be admin? I was like, I should make her admin. Yeah, let me make it. I will make you admin, and then you could tell me if you want me to take it back. All right, just in case. All right. So, also Amir, do you want to be admin as well? You know what? I will make you admin now, and you could tell me to take it back later if you don't want it. Amir. There we go. All right. You could be admin. You be admin. Everybody gets to be an admin today. Yay, Amir giving me a heart. So that means I have consent. This way, yes, we have a blue wall, Darko. no spammers will survive this many admins. We have so many admins. If somebody comes and basically spams the entire live chat, they will be nuked immediately. So let me see. Gaging American just gave us a super chat saying West secularism, PRC state atheism. It's not state atheism. And Islamism, the new romance of three kingdoms ideologies. Why is it state atheism? PRC is not state atheism. I mean, I don't agree with state atheism, but I think isn't it PRC more like state? So there's multiple versions of capitalism, and I like regulated capitalism. We have laws of fair capitalism, we have crony capitalism, we have state capitalism, and we have regulated capitalism. I like regulated capitalism, but what I consider PRC to be is state capitalism, which is a version of capitalism that I don't like. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.